Want to get your thoughts before we kick off today's show and get into it.
Well, shout out to all my friends in the Hey Ed WhatsApp group. And, Rob, I always suspected that you were a conflicted man. Now it comes out.
I have a deep sense of justice, right? I'm a law-abiding person and a rule-following person, but then I say at the same time, I contradict myself by saying, don't do anything the government says. They're a bunch of liars. They're a bunch of fools. But I also believe we need to live in a structured society as well. Otherwise, it'll be total chaos.
Well, context is everything, right? Context makes all the difference. So I can't wait. I mean, I got a lot of things I want to say on your topic, but I want to hear your say first. So,
well, I don't have a lot to say about it other than let's get into it. So the Australian government has been pushing pretty hard to have Julian Assange released. And as I was Googling quickly, just to get my facts straight, he was in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years, right? And the first part of Google says, Julian Assange, when Julian Assange was disguised as a motorcycle courier and first walked up to the steps of the Ecuadorian embassy behind Harrods in central London and asked for asylum, few people, including him, didn't think that it would be 7 years before he left there and left the front door there. So Wikileaks kicked off in 2006 and didn't really get that much momentum until really about 2010 with the Chelsea Manning files. And that person released all of the footage of what was actually going on in Iraq. So just in the last couple of weeks, really, the Australian government has been pushing to have him released. Enough's enough. Those charges that were put against him were not real. That was all a ruse to get him into jail, into custody, so the Americans could extradite him and then put him in jail for 175 years, which is really, me catching you up on that story because you've probably forgotten about it because it fell off the mainstream media that way for pretty quickly. But when you think about it, Julian Assange was he's the OG unspoken truth guy. He's the one who he created WikiLeaks and took all the whistleblower files and put them on the internet for everybody to see. And then the people that were having the whistle blown on him simply didn't like it. And the full force of the governments came down on him. And he's disclosing secret documents, he's disclosing top secret documents, video, damning footage, and all of the content that he released in relation to the Chelsea Manning Iraq files. When you look through that content and you see all of that information, I think, well, if American soldiers are committing war crimes and they're doing the wrong thing and they're fighting outside the laws of armed conflict, they should be held to account. And if you knew about it, if the US government knew about it and covered it up, what the hell? That's where I'm conflicted, right? Should they be releasing that type of information that this is going on, but then that they're highlighting that the government knew about it but didn't do anything about it? So why is it rules for thee and then rules for me? That's the thing that I'm so conflicted about. It's like a really bad thing. And I'm not sure if it's a good idea if he should be released. I'm not sure if he has done the right thing or not done the right thing. I'd love to hear your comments in the YouTube stream here. And Ed, what do you think, man? Should he be locked in a deep, dark hole? Should he stay where he is, or should he be released?
Well, I have to confess that I too have been, I've been on both sides of that issue, and adamantly, I've been going back and forth, because my original thought was, just put a bullet in this guy's head. Just walk up behind him, one of you CIA guys, and take out your .22 and put a bullet in the back of his skull.
That's when you had faith in the CIA and the FBI and all those authorities. Yeah,
that's right. But the idea that the top secret documents were being released, because apparently a lot of those documents did reveal some of our sources and put their lives at risk. Operatives that we were using to get information. For me, that is a red line. When you start putting people's lives at risk, people who were acting on our behalf at the risk of their own lives, and you reveal them as sources, okay, that is a deal breaker for me. Now, but what
if those people are doing the wrong thing? It always. Here's the thing, man. Like you can't break the law to enforce the law. I see the policeman on the footpath on his motorcycle blocking the footpath with his speed gun, and he's trying to enforce the law with his speed gun. But if I park my motorbike or my car on the footpath like that, I'd be fined straight away and towed away. But he's breaking the law to enforce the law, And that's what Julian Assange is doing, right? He's breaking the law to try and have some law enforced.
And this is where context is everything, right? But apparently what he did in the initial release, he didn't discriminate. He just put everything out there. I could see, so on the one hand, yeah, if he's revealing stuff that people are doing illegally and not in our interest, and they're keeping it secret, yeah, in that case, in that sense, he's a hero. But there were many cases when, I'm sure there were cases where, we had sources in Iraq who were helping our soldiers, avoid where the mines were and when the next terrorist attack were coming. And he didn't discriminate. He just threw it all out there. So you're right. I want to interject there in that point that you're making and see your thoughts here, because what's the difference between the withdrawal from Afghanistan and what he did then? What he did was at a different kind of scale, I suppose, because he's got the documents and the information about individuals. But when the American government decided to withdraw from Afghanistan, they just closed the gates and went, bad luck, get on the plane, get out, and got the hell out of there and left everything behind. And then they left literally thousands and thousands of what the Taliban would call collaborators in place. And those people had to prove that they worked for the American government to get the hell out of there. Otherwise, they're going to be persecuted by the Taliban, and rightly so, right? But the same thing actually happened. But no one was held to account. The people that were responsible and oversaw all of that are still in place. The withdrawal from Afghanistan is going to go down as one of the most disgraceful events in American history. That was a disgrace. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
It's hard to believe we're living through those times, right? Like, they're the things you read about in history. The withdrawal from Saigon. There's a famous video of the CH-46 coming over the top and then evacuating people as the Vietnamese took over and made that happen. The same thing happened in Afghanistan, but we lived through it. We saw it with our own eyes.
I actually saw the original one.
If you live long enough, you see everything twice. You see,
right. That was 1972.
There you go.
It was. There were a few differences this time around. When we were heading out the door, we didn't. We didn't leave the names of our collaborators. We didn't give them a list of our collaborators. We left them behind, which is bad enough, right? But we didn't actually tell them like Assange did, give them the names of
No, they did that. They had all the biometric scanners and stuff that knew, and they had the databases of everything. That was all left behind.
Oh, okay.
But, that's, again, is that, I can't verify any of that. And, you have to make some assumption that there was literally thousands of people working for the coalition there in Afghanistan, and the Taliban knew who they were.
Well, then I think they should just give Julian Assange a few roommates from our Joint Chiefs of Staff. Lock those guys up too, or ban those guys. Look, there is no accountability. Accountability is everything, right? So this is not like you. I'm conflicted because on the one hand, on the other hand, I think context makes all the difference in the world.
But why do you think context matters? Because of you're risking people's lives? Is that what you mean? You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be risking people's lives.
I do not like. I do think there's a place for secrecy. I do think there are some things the public should not know. I actually do believe, but those are extreme cases. Okay, that's a sliver of the. Other than that, there should be full transparency. But if we have Navy SEALs doing covert operations overseas and their lives are at risk, and secrecy is important in order to keep them safe, in order to get the job done, I'm all for it. Okay, so there are cases. I think they're extreme, but there are cases when I'm okay with the public not knowing about it, not knowing about things.
I held a security clearance in the Navy. I had a secret security clearance there. And when you go to the next, it's like confidential, secret, top secret, and then SCI stuff. There was never a need for me to have a TS clearance. And even doing what I was doing with electronic warfare, sitting on that set and doing all those sorts of things, there was no requirement for that. So you only, it's the need to know scenario, right? But unfortunately, people seem to think that when you have a security clearance, you're learning state secrets about things that you just can't find as open source. But the reality is the vast majority of content that I had access to, and in the ops room of a guided missile frigate, there's the sonar control room out the back of the ops room. So the ops room's one big room. It's probably not much bigger than the room I'm sitting in, actually. And the sonar control room's like kind of where my kitchen is there. And there's a sonar set in there. And there's a safe. And the safe had 3 drawers, and you open the top, and that's where all the secret documents are. But the vast majority of the documents only contained open source information. And to your point, Ed, the context of them being together in that one book gave it was the reason that it had the clearance associated with it. But you could go onto the internet right now, onto janes.com, and find the vast majority of information that we had access to, which was classified. But the context of that was different, and you would see extra information in there that you didn't have in a Janes book, because we had all of the Janes publications, and you'd have all of the secret documents that went with it, and you could see the differences between these two things. But then when you sat down at a console with your headset on and you were doing something for real, I guess that's when you're doing it in real time, and that's where you need that actual security clearance. But a lot of what is released by whistleblowers and a lot of what is said, as you look at classified information, I kind of see that and just go, well, so what? I could find the vast majority of that on the internet. So to your point about secrecy, there is definitely